All right, everybody. How are we doing today? Welcome to another episode of the Robbie Basel Show. Today is December 8th, 2023. My name is Robbie Basel, your usual host. And today's topics are a little bit different than usual. We have some MLB free agency, which we're actually going to talk about Shohei Ohtani at the end of the episode today. We have the usual Premier League preview. And we also have a Premier League recap from the during the week matchups, which were absolute chaos. On top of that, we have, of course, the NFL for this weekend. If you didn't, which is going to be reiterating some stuff from last night on Into the Stands, as well as some other thoughts for the games this weekend. But we're going to begin with a sport we haven't talked about, I think, since September, maybe, and that is the PGA Tour. And the reason I'm talking about this was news broke a couple days ago that Jon Rahms is going to LIV Golf. And that is where we're starting with today. The big news from the golfing world this week. And what does this move mean for the game of golf? This changes a lot. And the reason I say it changes a lot is, one, if you remember back in June, I think it was like the day of or the day after, news broke out like right around that episode's timing, where the PGA Tour and LIV Golf had a framework for a possible deal to like merge or whatever. And the deadline to officially finalize that move, according to this New York Post article, which I currently have in front of me, is New Year's Eve of this year. So if there's any time you have to get a deal done between LIV Golf and the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund and the PGA Tour, this is when you have to do it. And the reason I'm pointing this out now is Jon Rahms, top 3 player in the world. He's going to, I think, got like a 450 million pound offer, whatever it was, which is just absurd, by the way. But the reason I'm really like suspect of this is because Jon Rahms, when the news of LIV even starting a couple of years ago now, Jon Rahms was very against LIV Golf. He's not as outspoken, of course, as Rory McIlroy, but Jon Rahms was an outspoken person and did not like the idea of LIV. Now, eventually, months, years later, here we are in early December in an off season, and Jon Rahms is now going to be a part of LIV Golf. Now, you could also argue that we saw this move coming from weeks ago when he withdrew from the TGL, the Virtual Golf League, which is run by PGA Tour players, Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, et cetera, et cetera. You could argue that could have been the starting point. But, now that he's going to be playing for LIV Golf, now you're going to have to start raising questions about Ryder Cups in the future. What player, because of how big of a name Jon Rahms is. And this is the reason why I'm bringing this up. Jon Rahms, big name, and he's a reputable player on the PGA Tour and has been. What does this mean for the future of golf? We're going to learn a lot about what this this possible merge, really means in the next couple of weeks. And I'm going to be following it and giving updates, of course, whenever I find out anything on this podcast. Because if you really think about it, if they don't get a deal done by December 31st, who knows what's going to happen to both tours? Because the PGA Tour, they're not going to be able to offer as much money as LIV is. And the PGA Tour might be in a little bit of more trouble than they thought they would be in that certain situation. There's also rumors, according to this article, that the PGA Tour is in chaos with players divided on to accept the Saudi money, which makes sense. The Saudis are offering a lot of money, and you gotta really think about it from this perspective. Do you take the money or do you stay loyal? It's like this in any like a free agent type of move, and this is how I reference it. Say you're a homegrown player in the NHL, for example. Do you stay loyal or do you go for the big money? But you have a chance to succeed more and be more reputable in the original starting point you're at. Because if you think about it, LIV isn't getting world ranking points still, from what I know. Because of this, I still think that could be a main reason on why players aren't defecting to LIV more often, or more players aren't going yet because they want to get, of course, get more of the world ranking points, be able to compete in WGC events. They don't want to be the only main events they play in is the majors, and that's about it. So it's an interesting move. I hate not going to be able to see Jon Rahms on the PGA Tour for as of right now, at least. But there's rumors that the Telegraph reported that Jason Day and Adrian Marunk could defect to the LIV Golf. They'll both have denied it. I believe Jason Day. This was the comments he said. It's still not for me. Jason Day, a former PGA champion himself, I felt like he would be one of the earlier ones to defect to LIV because of how inconsistent he was and the money was there. But Adrian Marunk posted, I think had the better response. He posted his PGA Tour and DP World Tour cards on Instagram. And, well, that's the story. He's going to be loyal. But Golf Digest made it interesting, saying that Rahm might not just get his own team, which he is, by the way, but the LIV Tour could create another club to accommodate a potential exodus from the PGA and DP World Tours. What I'm thinking is going to happen, and I'm shocked this hasn't happened already, I thought more DP World Tour players would leave. And this is not anything against the DP World Tour. What I'm saying here is that the money is much, much less on the DP World Tour from what I remember than the PGA Tour and then, of course, LIV. I'm surprised that more players aren't going for the money, even though you got to respect it for the players who've remained loyal to the DP World / European Tour. Because it's a great tour, and they play a lot of incredible events. But I'm still shocked a little bit. I'm like, well, it's a DP World may not be able to bring in as much money. They might be now with their new format. What it used to be was like they didn't bring in as much money for a regular season event as a PGA Tour event would. So I'm interested to see how both tours respond. And can we see an actual PGA Tour and LIV official merging deal get done within the next couple of weeks? That's the big one. That's the big question I have, at least. But I think we're not going to find out anything on that probably till I would say late next week. To our usual topics now, and we're going to begin with the recap of the Premier League next from this week, because it was complete and utter chaos, as you would expect, from the Premier League being played in the middle of a week. We'll start with the non-eventful games. We had Wolves 1, Burnley 0. I mean, this game was just as much as I would have expected it to be. He Chen Huang was man of the match, and the goal was scored for Wolves by He Chen Huang. Wolves getting a massive 3 points and putting themselves now in a reputable 13th position, tied with Fulham, only behind by goals scored. They have only one goal less scored. So, listen, Wolves are in a much better spot. Big win for them. Burnley are stuck in 19th, and they're going to need to scrap together a couple of wins out of nowhere in order to have a chance of staying up now. I think so, at least. And then we have the main event, Luton Town 3, Arsenal 4. What I'm thinking about this is, are we going to see the same treatment for Raya as Ramsdale did? Because you could argue Ramsdale made mistakes, got a lot of criticism for it. Raya made mistakes. I think people should be more critical of David Raya. But the game was, I think, it was back and forth all the way. Of course, you had Martinelli open the scoring off the turnover in the back. Then you had also score. I think Gabriel Jesus just turning it at both of them, Martinelli and Jesus, who haven't been very effective and have not been effective at all in the Prem so far. They both scored. And then Adebayo scored. And then Ross Barkley with an early go-ahead goal for Luton. And then Kai Havertz, who's in great form right now, said not so fast, leveling it. And, of course, Declan Rice going out and scoring the winner in the 97th minute to get Arsenal all 3 points. Now, when you look at the XG, Arsenal deserved to win. And they did win, 2.26 to 0.51. when you're out shooting a team 23-6, much better than accurate passing, you would expect your team to win. What Luton did was they capitalized on the few shots that they actually had. And they also were very solid in the set pieces department. I think 2 goals were off corners for Luton Town. David Raya we need Ramsdale back. I'm dead serious now. I've been hyping it up during this first half of the season. As an avid watcher of Arsenal, this team needs the high reputation Aaron Ramsdale back in net. Or you loan him. You can't keep both. And this is starting to become a little bit on Arteta because if you remember within the move originally and how mad I was about this move to begin with, it was unnecessary. You had Aaron Ramsdale, who's arguably a top 3 keeper last year, now playing behind a mid-table keeper from last year in Raya. And then Raya's making mistakes that I don't even think Brentford would be happy about. Yeah, he's still going to be starting for Arsenal. That's a problem. And I think this is I think Arteta's going to be at a crossroads with the goalkeeping position. And I would not be surprised if Aaron Ramsdale wanted to move to a new club in January with the transfer window opening in 27 days. So the transfer window, by the way, this is a quick update on this one. I just remember this. I'm going to have a set of videos lined up for early January. It's going to be I think how I'm going to do it, it's going to be a little bit of a series. So every Monday to start January, there's going to be a soccering video out for the first 3 weeks because we're going to have the Prem, the Champions League, and then there's 2 other cups or tournaments that are going on in January, or at least we're finding out in January, which is AFCON and the Asian Cup. And we're going to do videos on all of that. What I might do is do like chapters, I guess, in a way, where you just do it all on a Monday, but I still have to figure that out. I'm hopefully trying to bring back a guest that you saw from the original videos. I'm also trying to bring in a guest for some other topics as well, but I mean, I'm still trying to figure that out. But hopefully, you will see me hopefully in a Santa hat next week or 2 weeks or so, since you will be seeing more episodes back home soon. In the original setup, or whatever original setup it is, probably around. Oh, and this is another thing to bring up. I do not know about next Friday yet, episode-wise. I think it's starting to become a little bit more likely that I'm doing an episode next Friday, but no guarantees yet. No guarantees yet. Arsenal win, good for them, staying top of the Prem. Now we're just going to go over a couple of the other matches from Wednesday. We had Brighton 2, Brentford 1. I don't know how this match was close, but it was a struggle. Brentford actually really held up with Brighton, but Brighton had 18 shots to 8. The difference was Brentford's shots led to much more XG. So good for them. And one got a penalty, and then Gross and Hinshelwood scored to give Brighton all 3 points. A much-needed win for the Seagulls to keep them in 8th place. Bournemouth 2, Palace 0. I don't know how. I don't know why, but Bournemouth, I think, could be starting to turn a corner. They got outshot. They had the same amount of big chances, but they took another team that took advantage of their opportunities. Sensei's opened the scoring, and then more scoring late on in the 91st minute, sealing the deal as Bournemouth go out and win 2-0. Fulham with a very emphatic 5-0 win over Nottingham Forest. A match that I thought was going to be very low scoring. But Fulham said, hold up, wait a minute. That script's not right. Here's the real script. And you look at it and like 5-0. Let's take a look at some of the numbers as well. The XG off the charts for Fulham. This is the best Fulham have looked all season. And Fulham are now tied with Wolves, of course, with that extra goal, putting them ahead on goals scored, as mentioned earlier. But man, Fulham possibly starting to turn a corner a little bit, maybe as well. I mean, they have an interesting match coming up on Sunday against West Ham. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Fulham, after losing, after only getting one win from in between October 23rd and November 12th, have rattled off 2 wins in their last 3 against Wolves and Nottingham Forest. They did lose to Liverpool, but they lost 4-3. They do have an interesting stretch coming up with West Ham and Newcastle and Everton in the EFL Cup. So all to play for Fulham. I think they're going to be in a much better spot. Sheffield United 0, Liverpool 2. Liverpool ran them off the field possession-wise, shots, XG, every stat. They just couldn't finish anything. And I think this game should have easily been 4-5, 6-0. Sheffield United are in massive trouble. And I think they're continuing that downward slide to go out there and get relegated. And then the big one from the week, which was Aston Villa 1, Man City 0. I have no idea what's going on with City anymore. I don't know. Villa had 2.38 XG, 1 goal. City had 0.65 XG. It was up to Jamaican international Leon Bailey to score a phenomenal goal to give Aston Villa the 1-0 lead and eventually the 1-0 victory. If you look at the match ratings, Holland 6.2, what are we doing? We had Rico Lewis 5.9 against Aston Villa, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but I'm like, how is City struggling this bad? And there's one point that I saw actually on an Instagram reel from earlier this week, which was Rodri actually having a very big impact on Man City. They lose a lot when he's not in the lineup. And I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. I don't know where he was this week. I guess he wasn't listed on the roster. Yeah, Rodri not being there is a big impact, I think, for Manchester City. Because if you look at the table, Villa has jumped Man City into 3rd position. The shocking team so far this year looks like it's going to be Aston Villa. At this point in the year, some might argue it's Tottenham. I'm thinking you should really make an argument for Villa because at the beginning of the year, it was really a 5-team race for those top 4 spots. Villa has joined the race. Tottenham has joined the race. Brighton still hanging on. So it's a much more deeper race for those Champions League spots or European spots than some may have argued. My God. Yawns galore today, Chad. Apologies for that, but big win for Villa. Well deserved. Also, I almost forgot to mention Manchester United 2, Chelsea 1. This is, I think, a more concerning win for United because this is their first win, I think, against a top half opponent all season. And they got carried by Scott McTominay. What? Why? Hello? Okay. McTominay, 2 goals, a brace for him. Cole Palmer scoring, but Manchester United, despite scoring 18 goals all season, are in 6th. I don't know how they've done it. They have the worst. They're ahead of a team with 15 more goals scored, 14 more goals scored, and 1 goal less conceded. How is that possible? Premier League in a nutshell. They have the worst goal difference out of any team in the top 11. The next lowest goal difference is -5 by a Fulham in 12th, for reference. And yesterday, we had West Ham United 2, Tottenham Hotspur 1. Christian Romero opened the scoring, but Jared Bowen scoring, and then James Ward-Prowse scoring that tap and gave West Ham, the Hammers, all 3 points. Tottenham, because of injuries really at this point, is in a big downward slide all the way back down to relevancy. Tottenham is now sitting in 5th. A very important 3 points behind Manchester City and now 9 points out of first position in the Premier League behind Arsenal. All teams have played 15 matches, so there's no one in the match at hand at this point. Big concerns for Tottenham. And when you look at the ratings, I always love looking at ratings in some of these other matches. Kulusevski, 6.7. Højbjerg, 6.8. the defense, especially on the left side, not looking very good. With Davies and Udogie with the 6.7 and a 6.1 respectively. But the big player, I think, for West Ham United, of course, was Bowen and Ward-Prowse. But Souček was impactful, I think, in the match. He is 7.5. Edson Alvarez. Emerson off the left-hand side, 8.2. And, of course, Fabianski in goal. He has a solid match as well. Tottenham had 75% possession and had less XG. They had 23 shots to 11 with less XG. How? Well, I don't know. Next match, Everton 3, Newcastle 0. This just gets even more confusing. Dwight McNeil, Doucouré, and then Beto scoring in the 75th minute or later. Everton, who have what at this point, without their 10-point deduction, would have the same amount of points as Chelsea, or like around where Chelsea is. I don't know, which is absolutely wild, and that would have been my worst prediction. And really, Everton 3.36 XG. Newcastle are sliding as well, so everyone's in trouble at this point. Everton, good win for them, well deserving win for Everton. They are now out of the relegation zone. Pushing all three promoted teams, into the relegation zone. Today we didn't have any matches in the Prem, but tomorrow we have some big ones. Starting it off, we have Liverpool and Palace, which is going to be I think a Liverpool 1-0 win. Palace don't score, but they also don't really concede that much. So I have Liverpool winning 1-0. I don't think there's anything else to say from that match. They haven't won at home in their last 5, and they've only scored 6 goals in the last 5 matches. And when you're going up against Liverpool, a team that averages 2.3 goals per match, you're going to have some problems. And also, fun fact, Liverpool haven't lost to Palace in their last 14 meetings. Should be interesting. We have the battle of, I don't know who's going to watch this game. We have on Peacock, Sheffield United hosting Brentford. Both these teams losing their last game. I think Brentford is going to concede, but then to come out of nowhere and score, or it's going to be a 1-1 or a 0-0, because Sheffield haven't scored in the last 180 minutes or so. Brentford haven't kept a clean sheet in their last 5 matches. So I don't know. I mean, you have the worst goal scoring team against a team that can't keep a clean sheet. I don't know what's going to happen. So I don't know if I can really make a prediction there. You've Manchester United playing Bournemouth on Peacock. Take a look at this match. Scott McTominay is playing out of his mind, and United have won the last 3 matchups against Bournemouth. What I think is going to happen, I'm going to say a 2-1 win for Manchester United. Who's going to score? No idea. And then we have Wolves. They're playing Nottingham Forest. I'm intrigued for this one, because Wolves are unbeaten in their last 5 at the Molineux. And they've also, fun fact, they've conceded the most penalties this year. So what I think is going to happen is Nottingham Forest is going to score a pen, and then Wolves get them out and score a couple. Give me 3-1 to Wolves. They haven't won an away game in the last 5 for Forest. I think they're going to struggle again here. And then you have the big one, which is Arsenal against Aston Villa. If you look at some of the quick notes from this game, Villa unbeaten in their last 8 home games, but Arsenal have kept a lot of clean sheets. They lead the league in clean sheets, and they're facing the team that scores the second most goals in the league. What I'm expecting out of this one, I'm going to say is a 1-1 draw. I think this game's going to be a power struggle for both. Villa stays in their high-flying form. Arsenal comes back to relevancy again. And I think at the end of the day on Saturday that Liverpool and Arsenal should be tied at the top of the league. I believe would be tied on that. On 37 points. I think that would make the most sense. For Sunday's ties, we have Everton and Chelsea. Not a lot to talk about in this one, but Chelsea, another team that hasn't kept a clean sheet in a while, and they're facing Everton, who looked great against Newcastle. I think Everton could possibly do it again. I'm gonna say Chelsea have also scored a lot recently. They've scored 13 goals in the last 5 matches. Give me a 2-2 draw here. Everton's going to be playing with all that high-flying energy. Chelsea, same way with the way they've been scoring. But I'm just worried about the Chelsea defense. Give me a 2-all draw on that one. Fulham, West Ham, I have no idea what to expect out of this one. West Ham haven't lost in their last 6. But they've also not lost to Fulham in their last 9, and I think that keeps going. I'm going to say West Ham 1, Fulham 0. Fulham riding too high after that 5-0 thrashing of Forest. I think they're going to come sliding back down to earth. Give me a 1-0 win for West Ham United. Luton Town against City. Luton haven't kept a clean sheet in their last 19 in all competitions. They don't score very much. But they have the top scorer in Holland. I think he gets a brace. Give me a 3. Let's go 3-1 win for City. It's at Luton Town, which has caused some problems for Liverpool and Arsenal. I would not be shocked if this happens again, but unbelievable. It's just an unbelievable sight for me. Then we have our big match of late day Sunday. We have Tottenham against Newcastle. Tottenham haven't won a match in their last 5, but they're ranked 2nd away from home this season. This match, despite them being 2nd on the road, it's at Tottenham. So I think that's going to be a little bit of an issue. But another team that's kept a lot of clean sheets this year is Newcastle. And I think Newcastle avenges their loss from the week, from the middle of the week. They also score a lot. They're 5th in the league in scoring. I'm going to say it's a 2-0 win for Newcastle. I think Spurs are going to struggle again, and I feel like they're going to continue the downward slide. You hate to see it, but I feel like that's the most likely thing to happen. And that is your Premier League preview for this week. Now on to the next big topic, which is the NFL. Starting it off with last night. And last night we talked about it on Into the Stands, which if you want to see that video from yesterday, click the link in the description. We were talking about how we thought 10 points max. 10 points was scored very early on, and you saw a good game from Bailey Zappi, 240 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Mitchell Trubisky not really doing much in this game, but major red flags in the Pittsburgh Steelers run game. This could be like, I don't know how to characterize this, because I think Pittsburgh's going to start to slide a little bit. If you look at Pittsburgh's remaining schedule, it's actually it's very difficult down the stretch. I think they're facing three teams that are currently in playoff races. 4th if you include Cincinnati, but we don't know what version of Cincinnati we're going to see, how good Drake Browning is going to look. They play the Colts, the Bengals, the Seahawks, and the Ravens. So a very interesting situation for the Steelers. They're going to need to figure it out, especially if Indianapolis goes out and wins this week, because Indianapolis are riding high as well. For the Patriots, they want to meet up to them a meaningless game, hopefully ruining their attempt at Drake May. And I have a very big feeling that the Week 18 showdown between the Jets and the Patriots, I kind of want to lose now. I'm kidding. I never want to lose to New England, but it would be kind of funny if we went out and lost to ruin the Patriots' chances at drafting another future franchise quarterback. Would be kind of funny, and a little bit of revenge from the NFL draft when they traded down with the Steelers to get Broderick Jones instead of Broderick Jones coming to the Jets. Interesting note. But what games should you watch out for this week? And we'll start off with the game that may not be on many people's radar, but there is some important stuff on the radar for this game, and that is the Jets and the Houston Texans, a game that I'm going to be at this week, or I'm going to be going to MetLife this week, and I'm very excited. The issue is, if you actually look at your weather apps for MetLife this week, it's going to be pouring rain. And, it's going to be raining at kickoff, so make sure to bring, if you're going to any of those games, bring ponchos or something. I actually have ponchos here. Shout out to these ponchos I have in my room for no reason at all. I didn't even realize I had them. But I will be bringing them back to my house. The Houston Texans are playing the New York Jets. The New York Jets, we heard middle of this week, are starting Zach Wilson again. So I'm going to say the Houston Texans win this game, though. I think it's going to be a close one. You're going to see much more of the ground game, I feel like, in this one, which I think will open a lot of doors for Devin Singletary. I don't know if Damian Pierce is injured or not. He's had a very down season. I think the Texans are going to really need to use their run game. But the New York Jets, last time they had this situation, played the Giants. Defense played great. Offense didn't move the ball. I think this is going to see a very bit of similar play, but I think Zach is going to be able to adjust much more. It's going to be a confidence booster. I think he's going to throw for at least one touchdown, but it's not going to be a very fun game to watch. It's going to be great to be at MetLife for me, but it's not going to be a fun game. Give me the Texans in this one. You hate to see it. I hope I do the jinx there a little bit. But what games should you watch out for this week, other than the three main ones, which of course I'm going to talk about? But underrated games to watch out for this week. We're going to start off in Atlanta between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. The Buccaneers, who are trying to stay in the hunt for the NFC South Division title. With a loss, this inevitably should somewhat eliminate Tampa Bay, because the Falcons, if you remember, beat Tampa Bay already. So the Buccaneers need to win this game in order to stay alive for the NFC South title. And also another reason is because the Panthers, I think, have a decent chance of beating the Saints this week. Not going to lie. The Saints, who have looked really, really bad recently. If the Falcons find a way to win this, the Saints are in trouble, because if they lose, the Falcons will have a 2-game lead with 4 games to go. If you look at the Falcons' schedule, from what I remember from yesterday, it's a lot of in-division matchups, so there will be still a lot to play for. But the Falcons play the Panthers, the Colts, the Bears, and the Saints. Looking at that schedule, you can argue it's a good, big game against the Panthers. Have to go out and win that. You have to beat the Bears. If they win this week, that would set up the Atlanta Falcons to maybe be playing an all or nothing matchup against the New Orleans Saints. But the Falcons are winning their next 3. They could go out and win this division at 9-8, which is not as horrible as we could have thought this division could be. Because if you remember Tank Division from a couple of years ago, which was the NFC East, a team that won like 7 or 8 games won the NFC East, which is Washington at the time, the football team, now known as the Washington I still mix it up, which is sad, but the Washington football team Commanders, never gets old saying that, by the way, who are actually dead last in the NFC East, can just go out and, you're looking at the Falcons going 9-8. I feel like that'd be kind of funny, especially Arthur Smith not getting out of his own way. All to watch for. With Falcons and Bucks, that's one of the things to watch out for. Another team to watch out for this week, and I touched on them yesterday. Actually, my friends Colin and McGee and Chris Gambino, part of the Into the Stands team, touched on the Indianapolis Colts. And I'm going to do it here a little bit, because the Indianapolis Colts have been riding high. Take a look at the AFC South standings. The Colts are in a playoff spot. They've won 4 in a row. And a big reason for that has been Gardner Minshew. The Colts, down the stretch, though, have a very interesting schedule as well. They open this week against the Bengals on Sunday. And they play the Steelers, the Falcons, the Raiders, and they end the season, and I think, a tiebreaker game against the Houston Texans. But for the Colts, and this has been a struggle with, I've seen this in other sports with teams that are just trying to hang on, is can they go out and win the games that they're supposed to win? Those games for the Colts, I feel like, would be the Bengals this week. The Raiders, you could argue the Falcons maybe. Pittsburgh, you could argue. I think the main games they should really win are Bengals, Steelers, and Raiders. That would set us to a phenomenal game on January 7th between the Colts and the Texans. I'm all for it. Why not? Big game to end the season. AFC South as well. It's chaos, and I'm all for it. So the Colts, team to watch out for, and they're playing. And a game in the battle of the backups between Jake Browning and Gardner Minshew. Though I do think Jake Browning has a very good shot at winning this game. especially with them. If you take a look at this game, they are at home. Jamar Chase, I think, does have a big game. It's going to go back and forth. I can't wait to watch out for this one. And taking a look at the afternoon session, this is where the main games are. So you start off with some interesting ones. You get the Broncos and the Chargers, two teams that you argue could have been in the playoff race more, but the Chargers are not fully out of it yet. They could, with a win here, they could go to 6-7. The Broncos would be at 6-7, arguably a game or two out of the playoff race. You have the Vikings and the Raiders. The Vikings trying to hold on. They are playing the Raiders. A Raiders team that's trying to hold on as well because they're at 5-7. And I talked about it yesterday. First wildcard team to like the Raiders is 2 games in between each other with 5 games to go for some of these teams, all to play for. I'm very excited to see how that one can turn out. But then you have the main event one. Starting it off, we have the Seahawks and the 49ers. The Seahawks, this is a rematch of Thanksgiving. This is a must-win possibly for Seattle to stay in the hunt for an NFC wildcard spot because Seattle, man, they have an interesting finish to the year. I think they have only one guaranteed loss because they do play the Titans and the Cardinals and Pittsburgh. But they do have to play the Niners and the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Seahawks are in a very interesting spot. And you can make an argument that 9-8 would get you in the playoffs, but I actually think that's, now really looking at it, I think that's a very big possibility that the Seahawks could go 9-8 and make it because of how many teams are under 500. You keep forgetting this. If you've paid attention at all this year, the NFC has 4 teams over 500, and a lot of teams, they have the same amount of teams. They have more teams at 6-6 than over 500, which is wild. I mean, you have a lot of interesting scenarios for the wild card with the Rams, Seahawks, Vikings, and Packers. We'll talk about the Packers in a moment. But I do see the Seahawks, a path for the Seahawks to make it. It's just they have to go out and win the games they're supposed to win. And that's an argument for a lot of other teams. Speaking of games they're supposed to win, I forgot to mention this one. We have the Rams and the Ravens, the battle of the R's. The Rams, I talked about them yesterday. They have a very favorable schedule the rest of the way. They've played 2 NFC East teams, both NFC East teams that are really bad, but I think Washington could possibly be a threat because their offense, their past game is actually very solid. But they do have to play the Ravens and the Niners. I think they could possibly hinder their chances a little bit and maybe a slip up against the Giants. But listen, they also play on Thursday against the Saints. So the NFC West is a very interesting scenario. But I do think the Ravens win this game at home. That game might be turned into a slip and slide as well, depending on where the rain is. So that's a thing to watch out for as well. Next game to talk about. Of course, you can't go talk about this without another playoff-esque rematch between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. And I think Patrick Mahomes goes out and wins this game. Josh Allen, I don't know about him anymore. I was hyping him up at the beginning of the year and saying the Bills will win this division. But they said not so fast once again. The Bills have not looked very good on the offensive side of the ball. I'm going to say the Kansas City Chiefs win this one in a very close game. I think Mahomes does outplay Josh Allen once again. Of course, we have the Dallas Cowboys against the Philadelphia Eagles, the main event matchup of the week on Sunday Night Football. All to play for. This will be for the NFC East division title, most likely, and I'm going to pick the Philadelphia Eagles. And the reason I am going to pick the Philadelphia Eagles because the Dallas Cowboys in some of these bigger games, have they even had a big game this year? Other than the Philadelphia Eagles? I don't think so. I mean, they've lost to the Niners. They lost to the Eagles. I mean, you could argue Seattle, but they have also a very interesting schedule down the stretch. Like the Dolphins, and I said this yesterday, the Dolphins are going to be, we're going to see the true side of the Dolphins. In the last couple of weeks of the year, they play the Ravens. They play a couple of AFC East teams because the AFC East, I still don't think defensively is a pushover. Some of these teams, offensively, they're going to look like a mess, of course, but I still don't think that either of those teams are going to be a true pushover. But the Dallas Cowboys are in the same boat because they're 9-3, but I think they're a fraudulent 9-3. I feel the same way about a lot of the top teams this year. And my thoughts process is this. When you have an easy schedule, you should be going out and beating those easy teams. That's very true. I'll look at it again with Dallas. They're 9-3, but they beat the Rams. I believe that who didn't have Stafford. Oh, they did have Stafford. Okay, so you argue the Rams as well. You can argue for that list. But let's take a look at their wins. And the Cowboys have beaten, let's list them off, ladies and gentlemen. We have the Giants, the Jets. They lost to the Cardinals. They've beat New England, lost to the Niners, lost to the Chargers, beat the Rams, lost to the Eagles, beat the Giants, beat the Panthers, beat Washington, and beat Seattle. How many teams out of that list are at or above 500 right now? I'll let you take a guess before I say the actual answer. And do not look it up, chat. I have a feeling when I do this, I'm trying this out something new. The answer, maybe like 2 more seconds. The answer is 2. And it's 2 teams at 500. The Rams and the Seahawks. They have lost to the other 2 teams that they've played who are over 500. So the Niners and, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to keep the logic here. The Cowboys are great at home. Eagles are a better team. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles. And another which is also a prove yourself moment for the Eagles. Packers, Giants, one of our 2 Monday Night Football games. I think Jordan Love continues his phenomenal bit of play recently. I think the Packers go out and win this one. I hope Christian Watson is going to be playing this week. I think if he is playing, I think that's my player to watch this week. He's been in great form recently, but he is, I believe, possibly questionable for this one. So I'm going to say give me the Green Bay Packers. Of course, Dolphins, Titans, give me the Miami Dolphins. This is a no-brainer. Miami Dolphins are a much better team, but I do think Will Levis looks semi-decent in this one, but give me the Miami Dolphins. So I will probably touch on this again on Monday. Finally tonight, we are going to be talking about recent news in MLB free agency. Starting it off, we have Juan Soto. I'm going to touch upon this very briefly because I talked about it more in depth yesterday. And there's also one more player to talk about, so I'm just going to make this short and brief. Juan Soto to the Yankees makes the Yankees go into an all-in push, and they've done it at the right time. And the reason I say at the right time is because the Tampa Bay Rays are battling injuries. Baltimore Orioles are trying to not prove last year was a fluke. But the team that they're going to, I think, really are going to be battling as of right now are the Toronto Blue Jays. And the reason I say the Blue Jays because they're in the mix for Shohei Ohtani. And at one point today, we all thought that the Blue Jays were going to get a deal done today for Ohtani. That's not true. As of yet, as of when I'm recording this video at 4:50 p.m. Eastern time on a Friday. But Juan Soto, that's the main move, but they've also traded for Alex Verdugo, Trent Grisham. I'm probably forgetting someone, but I don't think I am. Those 3 players. It's an interesting one. I will forever be confused about the idea of trading for Alex Verdugo. And the reason I say confused is because it's a rental, but they didn't trade very much. That's the big positive, I think, from the Yankees' perspective, was they didn't trade much, and they got a great player in Verdugo. It's just like, he's not going to stay. You know he's probably not going to stay because he's going to want to play full-time somewhere. It's like, when you're a free agent like that, it's a mix of, do you want to win? Do you want to get a bag? Or do you want to play? It's kind of got to be able to balance that. I don't think Verdugo stays past next year. Trent Grisham is for defense. He doesn't hit very much. This probably rules out the ideas of Cody Bellinger, Kevin Kiermaier, etc. And, of course, Juan Soto is just that guy. It's a 1-year rental, though. Can they go out? I do not think they re-sign him during the season. I don't think they sign him before the season. Because Scott Boras' clients know what they're worth. And with how much Juan Soto turned down from the Nationals, albeit it was from the Nationals, a team that's now not competitive at all, you got to imagine he's going to get something similar. AAV-wise. I don't think years-wise. But AAV-wise, you got to imagine that he's going to get something similar. But the Yankees did it right, and they did it at the right time. But unfortunately, I talked about it yesterday, there could be a team that spoils the party, and that is the Toronto Blue Jays. And I believe hours ago they said that this deal could be done, but let me leave because we reported reports 2 hours ago. Let me show what ESPN's saying about this because you always gotta go to your reputable sources in case this move is like fake or whatever. I haven't heard really anything yet. So while I'm looking at this, making sure we have the right information, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. So here's where we're at, as of what I'm expecting. Shohei Ohtani is now much more linked with the Blue Jays. Some reporters are saying it's not over yet. Some are saying it is over. Let me just check my other sources on my phone to make sure that we haven't heard anything yet. Because when you're doing a move like how big this one is, so here is what my source from what JP Morosi said. Ohtani is going to Toronto today. A representative of his agency, CA, would not comment when asked about Ohtani's travel plans. At this hour, Ohtani does not have a deal done with any MLB team. What this is saying is that the reports from earlier today saying that, like, one move saying, Ohtani to leave Angels, sign with Blue Jays according to Sports Illustrated. Dodgers Nation saying Shohei Ohtani to sign with Toronto Blue Jays over Los Angeles Dodgers is not official yet. Do I think they get a deal done before this next episode? If they want to have a time to do it, this would be it, because winter meetings, no one got a deal done. Which is I'm a little disappointed by the winter meetings because I thought there were going to be deals done with Ohtani. You saw what the Yankees did. Why couldn't the other teams go out and make a move like this? So, listen, this is an interesting situation. Carl, we're going off. But it's a whole a scenario that we did not expect that the Toronto Blue Jays would actually be this into it with Shohei Ohtani. Listen, if there's any time to make the move, now is the time in response to what the Yankees did. Like I said earlier, I think this move could get done within the next 48 hours if he's actually going to go to the Blue Jays. But I still think the Dodgers are going to be in the mix. I think the Giants are probably out by now. I think it's a 2-horse race down the stretch. Only time will tell to see what this move where he will be moving, and hopefully it will be before the next episode. And on that note, that is all from today's episode of the Robbie Basel Show. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like what you see, hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel. And on that note, I'm Robbie Basel saying so long. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you guys Monday. Goodbye, everyone.